Yeah, guys, because we've been speed running through this anime, so that's why I'm like, as long as it doesn't fucking give me a headache, I think we'll be fine. Or give me a nosebleed, we'll be fine. ReZero, some of the other ones, they've given me nosebleeds. Oh, that's... Dead End. That's such a... Dead End. That's such a, like... Everything was like Japanese, and Dead End, though. Dead End, though. Like, straight up English out of nowhere. The use actually has a grammar and vocabulary. I'm sure. That's what I'm wondering, dude. I'm like, unless there's other people that have been like, you know, are in this world as well, and they're like referencing, like, you know, because it's all like Japanese or like different languages, you know, inside of that. And all of a sudden you just bring up a random English word. I'm gonna be sus of everyone, dude, or everything specifically to do with like Rudy and Eris in itself, you know? So that's already fucking huge. That's a horrible fucking nickname. Holy shit, dude. No way. Guys, sometimes when I say shit in a previous episode, I say it as like a logical conclusion. I don't necessarily mean... I don't necessarily mean that like it's gonna happen, you know, like don't take my words for granted, especially if you're watching this like episode by episode the way that we are, like, you know, or sometime in the future. I don't necessarily mean for shit to happen, especially when you're starting to get like coloration or some shit out of that, because the way that I'm seeing this going, it's either yeah, but it's not just with that, it's with other situations as well. Like, I don't know, dude. This is an individual that... Are you sure? No, I don't even. To be honest, I always get confused when you guys are referencing. I think that's the author of MT, right? Like, I'm an anime only, bro. To be fair, like I've seen the name thrown around a lot, and it's literally taken me a while uh, to know. So yeah, no. I was like, no, but it is a quite a logical conclusion to go into that. Whoa, there's like this looks pretty big, dude. I ain't gonna lie, this does look pretty big. Aww. Aww. I've had this weird... Guys, I gotta stop it right there. I've had this weird feeling this entire time. And I think this is like solidifying more and more points to me about like, I don't know, like if I was an author and I wanted to like write from here, right? How would I write in a perspective that is different from others, right? This is just a culmination of the previous episodes up to now. Specifically when it comes to Rudy, it's like a big, not just retribution arc for himself, right? Because, oh, here we go. This is one of the discussion points we had yesterday. There are a lot of people that want some sort of divine punishment or like some type of punishment for Rudy for his actions. You know, they believe in this weird karmic punishment, right? Which is the question that was asked in yesterday's stream. Do I believe in that? No. Life is not like that at all. And life, you don't, you know, sadly, this is very fucking sad. A lot of people don't necessarily get the punishment for the actions that they've caused here on Earth, or whatever you may call it. I don't know if you guys believe in religion or whatnot. That's up to you to believe if they're going to get punished over there or not, or, you know, whatever that may entail. But no, but Nickmare, let me get this through, right? The moment that you start wishing karmic punishment is the moment that you start noticing that people that try and use any form of this argument onto this character have already inserted themselves into the narrative, right? in a really fucking weird way, because any person, like, you have to get, like, hi Dagger, we're doing Mushoku Tensei, episode 10. At any point, if you actually get fucking triggered enough to start saying, like, oh, well, he needs to, like, there needs to be punishment for this is not cool, we have to go after the, I don't know, like, the director and the editors and or the animators and shit like that, you have quite literally put yourself into this narrative and been triggered. The presentation media art is there to quite literally reflect society and at points make you uncomfortable. It is in that uncomfortability where you have to point inward. You don't have to point outward. The moment you point outward is you're being outrageous. You're quite literally projecting your insecurity and your thoughts onto the media and onto people that like that media. Project that inward and find out why that makes you uncomfortable specifically. So for example, if it's themes of like sexual assault or themes of other stuff specifically, wherein does that like matter to you? Like, where does that trigger to you and why? Where did this come from? Because in life, sadly, as I was mentioning, karmic punishment doesn't necessarily always happen. Realistically, not everyone is always going to get justice or whatever for that situation. And then when it comes to people that keep trying to argue and specifically point out in the comments that, like, oh, you have to keep looking at Rudy like a 30-year-old man inside of this kid's body. So you guys have to remember, this is a brain that is still developing, right? Yeah, not every good person gets rewarded. Exactly, Vardik. This is still a brain that is in development, right? I.e., what I mean by that, as a kid grows up, they're going to go through different cycles and different stages. And granted, there's some people that try and argue, and I've had this encounter firsthand in some of the comment sections, which is like, oh, he's a kid. He's like, him being hypersexual doesn't make sense because he doesn't have the pituitary gland and the hormonal changes to be hypersexual. You're completely wrong with that. That's called hypersexuality. In kids is actually quite common. Sexuality in kids is quite common. Hormonal changes and hormonal changes into, say, sexual desire turning into a sexual need. That's sort of what starts changing once you start growing into that adulthood. Guess why there's still a lot of cases when little kids start masticating without using the word, actually, I think I can say it on Twitch. That's why a lot of kids go into like masturbation stages and stuff like that at earlier ages when there is no boundaries being set, when there's no like communication about that. So, and it's not just that, it's developmental psychology and the psychosexual stages of what kids go through, So it's always an interesting argument when people try and point out that it's unrealistic, that, and especially in the comments, that Rudy would be at any form sexualized or any form, be aware of that because he's too young, when in reality, a lot of kids are introduced to their own body, their own behavior, their own thought pattern. It might not be to the point where Rudy is, because we've done a hypersexual or like a sexual test on Rudy, like character. Turns out he's super duper hypersexual. So you have like a wide variety. It's a spectrum, guys. You can't just label people black and white. Many people are outraged that Rudy gets rewarded from being a social recluse, for being granted a new life and magic powers and being popular. I think many people are just outraged by the situations at hand, if that makes sense. Like there can be a situation that pops up that makes you uncomfortable, and just because a person is like going on with life, maybe even trying to get better action, like for example, a person's actions can never be justified. I've always stated this 110%, i.e., essay cannot be justified in any way, shape, or form. If you try and justify essay by going into a person's backstory, does not matter the age, does not matter anything. You're inserting yourself, again, your own personal beliefs, your stance into the narrative, instead of just straight up being like, hey, you know what? If someone did this to my daughter or my sister or whatever, that's unacceptable. I'd be fucking pissed off. Or my mom or whoever that may be. Like, that's where you have to start separating certain things. It's like, where are the boundaries and where are you putting yourself into that? Because yeah, it's important. It's important to go ahead and look at situations like that. It's so wild how people that are uncomfortable to stuff in the series get mad at people who are fans for everything else. Comfortable to stuff in the series. How so? Like, are people just get mad at you guys for being fans of the series and genuinely enjoying the show? Like, it's one thing to have issues with the show on like some of the levels that are being presented. It's another thing to go ahead and like get mad at you for enjoying the show. That's fucking weird. That's again an insertion in like a projection, a strong projection. Like, I don't like the show, so none of you guys should like the show. That's weird, brother. That is weird. But no, what I was getting at, sorry, that was a long ass rant. I think some people just feel uncomfortable for people enjoying the show, even for not the messed up stuff. People will say that you endorse behaviors in the show if you like it. That's completely incorrect. You can enjoy a media without necessarily justifying a behavior. I think that's a conversation that Nick Mayer and I have had in the past as well. We made some excellent arguments, if I remember correctly, which was that we were on the same page. We were both like shooting off things, and we're at the exact same page, which is essentially like, you can enjoy the show, doesn't mean you like justify the actions, you know? You can enjoy the show for the characters and the growth that may happen. Doesn't mean that you like every single thing that a character does, right? Oh yeah, I had someone dead ass tell me, bad take, and if you like the show, what does that say about you? That's fucking weird, dude. I would question that, and I would go back into it and be like, what does that say about you to actually get triggered by something in that show? Maybe you have something to work on yourself about, especially if you're trying to take it out on the fans. That's rough, dude. I think, yeah, I think some people, yeah, for some people, I think it just goes way over their head. I think some people are intentionally close themselves off to this. But anyway, what I was getting at, sorry, before I keep answering questions, what I was getting at specifically is that it feels as though while we're getting this whole thing of Rudy, right? And like, I'm guessing the whole show is about change, right? Is about personal redemption, it's about personal change. Maybe even from, you know, being completely distant to like trying to get closer and actually have that core fundamental foundation of what a family is, or something like that, you know, like growing into a stronger and better individual. But if I were to look at this as like any overpowered MC anime type shit, you want to know what he reminds me of? This might seem silly. He reminds me of like the people that came before, if that makes sense. Like, for example, you have the MC. For example, we're gonna go Dragon Ball Z route. You have Goku, who overpowered as shit, has everything going on. And then you have his dad, Bardock, who, while you know being strong, he had a lot of issues, you know, and didn't really ever get to see that route. So I'm wondering where this is going to take us. You know, are we seeing an MC, you know, a main character that's quite literally going to go into an overpowered group and like become this like world-ending whatnot, or are we seeing something that's going to set up for future orientations? Because if I was the author, and if, like logically speaking, if I was an author and I wanted to make a good show, a good series to continue, what I would do is I'd make this whole thing about change and growth, and you know maybe even sacrifice, what it means to like you know one being like you know come into reincarnation or come into this world, and two, what is it like to leave a legacy or leave something for future generations to go. And then like if I were to go ahead and do another segment, I'd go ahead and do something like, what is it to carry the weight of that legacy, and versus what is it to start defining your own self at the end of that legacy, to start finding out who you are and what you're meant to do, you know. Sorry guys, that's just one of my wildest fucking things out there. I know I've seen some people argue that Rudy is an adult, and then they say that like mental age or something isn't. Mental age is told what? So this is how you can counter argue that. Because there are people, and yes, we're only 3 minutes in. There are people that will quite literally be like, "Hey, you know what? Rudy is 40-year-old in a kid's body." Just asked him, reverse the question. I said this on a stream that got deleted, sadly. Nothing to do with Mushoku Tensei, it was just a rant. How does, right, where do you see Rudy dating? Where would you like Rudy to date? At what age range? Where would you like him to start making his social interactions? If they start saying older, then they're justifying SA again, because it's a kid's body with an older individual. If they say younger, then all of a sudden their argument, like, you know, or his age, all of a sudden their argument becomes invalid. Because at that point, you know, you're quite literally people at the same age. So then, huge prediction. What are you talking about, brother? But anyway, when it comes to like that specific thing, like, you know, that's how you nail people like that. Because all of a sudden, if they're like, oh, well, he should start dating people his age. He's like 30 something years old, 40 something years old. He should be dating that. And it's like, you're justifying, you're quite like literally what you're against, you're justifying right now. Because that is a kid. That is a physically, mentally, for the most part, like mental development wise, so on and so forth, like the whole body of a kid. And you want him to go ahead and go with the 40-year-old because you're saying that he's mature. What? You know, like, what are you guys doing? And if it's like, oh, well, he should date people his age. Okay, so then you agree that, like, he might be a little bit more mature than the people his age around. You know? At the end of season 4 or 5, what the fuck, Nickmer? No, guys, this is all logic, no fucking wizard powers, nothing like that. It's quite literally, like, taking logical conclusions and putting yourself, like, into that. Yeah, please don't confirm or deny anything, if that makes sense. Anyway, with that being said, oh, is this blue hair Rui? Is this a blue haired Rui? Bro, I'm fucking excited. Oh no. Oh no. Oh. Oh. Okay, in case you guys are wondering, why the fuck did I just stop it right there? That right there is a fucking kid response, right? Or someone that's like not really used to social interactions. Once confrontation happens, it's quite literally like a stall back, and then it's like a trying to go back forward. Talk to an adult. A lot of adults, especially once they're used to shit, they'll be able to go ahead and have that like rapport, that like being able to like get that question and throw it back, maybe stop and think and go off so forth without showing too much of an expression, because sometimes you have to be poker face, especially when you do certain things like job interviews or something fucking random, but most kids, especially when dealing with confrontation, you might see that immediately in their eyes and immediately in that like frame of thinking. So that's interesting, and that's what I've noticed a lot is like, you can tell that there's like changes, or like, I don't know how to put it, like the reaction there, because and I brought this up in that rant as well. How old was he when he, like, in his previous life, when he stopped socializing? Like 14 or 15, yeah? I believe that's what people were saying in that rant. Yeah? He was like 14, 15, or 16 when he like secluded himself and shit. 14 or 15. If you haven't had any development from 14 or 15, like social development or whatnot, bro, it's quite literally, you shut your brain down when you were still a fucking kid or a teenager, dude. Like, how do you expect someone to solve issues, right? Because at 14 and 15, at most, what you tend to do is that's sort of the toxic ages. I hate to put it that way, but that is sort of the toxic ages. The teenage years, when you start like figuring out what independence means to you, how you can try and finagle out of like confrontation, arguments, and shit like that. But how do you expect someone to like be perfectly self-realized at those ages if they secluded themselves and like haven't had any actual interaction, and their only form of actual interaction is like, say, Discord or some stupid shit like that, Like, it kind of fucking makes sense in a weird way. Oh shit. He coming in here with that big Elden Ring energy. Aww. Aww. Sir, 3 boobas? What? What? Is that 3 booba? How does that work? I'm not going to question it. You know what? If it works, it works, right? That's the best way I can go. And y'all still wonder why I'm scared of like, hi AZ. Y'all still wonder why I'm scared of someone actually making like cloning, or at some point in time trying to make beast people. Like, I have a feeling y'all have some weird preferences, and if you guys were the scientists behind it, y'all would make some interesting choices, I guess. I wouldn't complain. Oh, stabby, stabby. Okay, if we're gonna talk about STDs and this shit, this is where you have to come into consideration, right? How far can healing magic go? Does healing magic just heal wounds? And if so, is it like on the base cellular level, or is it in the like nuclear atomic level? Like, at what point does healing magic actually go through? And that's actually a fundamental thing that I'd be super fucking curious about, right? Because like, is it strong enough to stop like venereal and other types of diseases, even such things as the common cold, from going in? And if that's the case, wouldn't that just stop or eradicate a majority of people from trying to go out and adventure, you know? I don't know, dude. I'd be fucking terrified. I would be absolutely fucking terrified of like anything in that regard. Just in this setting, you know, because I'm sure if anyone was to get a disease in this world, it would probably be Paul. Oh, bro, you gotta beat this dude up. Dark Thug, that is exactly why I'm worried. Sorry, that is exactly why I'm worried, especially before he met Zenith. Are you kidding me? I can totally see Paul as like a typical fuckboy, you know? I can totally see him getting the clap once or twice. I don't know, dude. Like, it'd be interesting. Hey, as long as he's, you know, they're aware of it, hey. Detoxification would be... Would it, though? Because it's not really, like, anything. Like, you would probably need, like, penicillin and shit like that, you know? Interesting. But also, this guy. Ugh. Ugh. Bro, you... Oh, dude, you're just gonna have to fucking kill them all, dude. Oh, I mean, that's one way to go ahead and like... True. True, that is a little bit of progress, but that's sort of what I was going to get at. I was going to stop it to say that. It's like, what if they build a legacy quite literally doing this shit? Like, you know, you start as dead end and you just keep building up this legacy of doing good deeds and whatnot. But here's the issue with that. Any one bad deed can automatically stumble people's minds or reset it or make people fearful again, because it takes a while. These stages of action and the stages of change take forever. Best way to put it. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Just a long, prolonged silence on that one, brother. Oh, don't tell me it doesn't fucking pop up. Give me a second. Just gotta download it. There we go. Yeah, because I can't show you some specific stuff. Okay. I should probably put it in game. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a bit of a... I don't know how to put it. It's a domestic violence sheet, specifically with the wheel. Eris Well, can you guys see which one she uses in this wheel? Because I can definitely see some of the ones that they can probably use. You know, you have to remember, physical violence or domestic violence in general is not necessarily just for men on females. It's also females on men. Uh, and my whole thing is, you know, when you guys are wondering, well, how is he able to pick up on certain things? This is one of the resources that we use. We tend to look at, you know, different, and I think I've explained it in every single episode pretty clearly, different tactics and different things that we're using. So anytime that someone goes into a violent episode or a violent something, it's usually because of a thing of power or control, right? Control over their environment, control over themselves, or trying to have power over or power under something, right? So specifically when it comes to Eris, what do you think we were going to get to see? Because I'll be honest, you know, I can definitely see, first off, Eris using a lot of these in a majority of these settings. Not using children because they're kids, that doesn't make sense, you know, or using male privilege, but using, for example, nobility rank, or using grandpa, or using so on and so forth back in the day, you know. And the reason why I'm pointing this out is because and it's not to be like, oh, you know what, she's violent. We know she's violent, but you tend to pick this up a lot of like physical violence and domestic violence and stuff like that. Yeah, using her fists and stuff tends to be generational. Like, i.e., you grew up in a society where you saw your parents do it, or your grandparents do it, or someone do it so often that you think it's normal behavior and you have never been ramified for that behavior. So these are some of the tactics that you might use to justify that power and control that you might have over someone, you know. So for example, when she's hitting at Rudy, is it because, you know, it's an intimidation tactic to try and not get Rudy to question the power and control of that environment? Is it to try and use coercion and threats to try and keep that control? Is it because economically Rudy is reliant on her? Or is it because of nobility privilege? We're going to change that from male privilege to just privilege in general, you know? And that's exactly it, Sundai. Like when people try and get mad at Eris specifically for being violent and being like, you know, character's too violent or something like that, you can reference this and be like, hey, you know what, this is kind of like, it's a generational thing. It's can be a very, like, it takes someone really strong to break that cycle, you know, to understand that cycle and see that it's not normal. And that's exactly it. Does she minimize and deny like any form of blame or something? Does she isolate? Does she tend to run away? Does she tend to control the environment? Or sometimes if see that like especially to Rui, not Rudy, if he's like way too advanced in her, you know, in any form of like sword or training or anything like that, does she try and like, I don't know, does that power gap make her uncomfortable? And again, that power and control, so on and so forth. So yeah, I was just bringing that up because I think it's super important to go ahead and like touch on that and let people know like, hey, you know what? Just because a character is violent, you have to remember it's not necessarily, especially because they're a kid. It's probably because they were never ramified as a kid, and it's probably because they've seen it happen a lot in their household. Anyway, that was kind of fucked up though too. Are they gonna be huge? Why did I just get a red fucking flag, guys? Almost immediately off of that introduction, I got a red fucking flag. Yeah, can someone show me the moon? Like, we're gonna be huge. Turns out they like don't make it to the next episode or some shit. And we never saw them ever again. Oh. Yeah, now you gotta do everything. Oh, not you again. Oh my fucking god, dude, you're creepy ass. But why, dude? Why? I know I showed this example before, right? Which is like, if we're running where like every single, and I know you guys can see it because I can see it on screen. If you guys are running where every single bead is an earth theorem and Earth, whatever, that because he clearly is like separate from space and time that is happening, right? But let's say that like every single bead is a variation or a time of Earth that is passing, right? So it's going through, it's going through, it's going through, it's going through, normal, 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 normal. All of a sudden you get a red one and you get a change. What would you do to try and justify a chain? Because I know he said earlier in the last episode that he didn't bring him in. So that's my question to you guys. Logically thinking, what I have now, and like, well, this is like a, I guess like a weird prediction or weird like feeling. I guess it's more of a feeling than a logical thing or anything. It's called a give or take. It's called a foot in the door technique. You know, it's like, hey, you know, if we were talking, right, and I were to ask you for $1, you'd probably be like, if I was like, hey, do you have $1 I can borrow? That versus like, hey, do you have $100? At $100, you'd probably look at me like, what the fuck, dude? But if it was like $1, you'd probably be like, yeah, dude, I got $1. Here you go. Like, not an issue, right? So it's quite literally like planting yourself as an area or a member of importance, but for what? What reason? What reason is he communicating with someone that he said he didn't bring in? That's where I'm fucking curious about. And because any big changes in an environment, any big changes in anything could cause a complete destabilization. Now comes my next question, and this is one that I was thinking about, especially since, you know, we were talking about all the gods and everything in the last episode. Can you kill a god? And what does that take? What is there a big fear about? I hope that Rudy doesn't go into like, you know, for some reason finds out how to become a god. That would be fucking weird. That'd be some like Final Fantasy shit. But no, like quite literally, like what does it take to reach that level or reach a level of power so great that you can literally like distance yourself from the metaphysical realm or the physical realm into the metaphysical realm, you know? Oh no, I'm starting with the premise that Hitogami is malicious. Absolutely, dude. Just off of the interactions that he's had and the information that he's given, it's kind of like a manipulator tactic. You know, the way that like he's giving information, the way that he's doing certain things. It's like, I don't know, dude. I don't know. He strikes. He gives me a really bad fucking chord, if that says anything. It's like trying too hard. Also, the glitching he's going through? Dude, come on. Come on, dude. Oh. I don't know about that, bro. Bro, you're making some weird-ass promises right here. Bro, I don't know about any of that. I'm not sure if it's comforting, right? But I think it's, I wouldn't necessarily start saying that people are safe and sound if you don't necessarily know. That's an oofer, dude. Aw. That's a fucking... That's a straight up panther, bro. Hey, that's a kitty. Really? They don't seem that tough. They don't seem that tough. And yet, they have all of this shit. Why? Is that Rui? Yeah, I had a feeling. Yeah. I mean, yeah, actually. Yeah, still. Dark Thug, still. Yeah, that's exactly why I was about to say, but are they evil or are they just like the goons, you know, the Goonies? But it's also like you also have to like restrain yourself and see what works and what doesn't specifically in that regard. Like you can't just kill everyone just because of your sense of morality, because then at the end of the day, what is evil but your own description of what evil is, you know? Like you want to bring up some issues, that's how you bring up some fucking issues right there and then. Like if you have a warped sense of good and evil, then yeah, everything's pretty much over. Oh. 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 No, Eris. Right? Having that warped mentality can fuck you over so hard. It's good that she can at least go off. I feel like she can at least be a little protective of Rudy, like Rudy in this scenario. But what if that black-white mentality is quite literally what allows like them to be controlled in some way, shape, you know, if you insert like a black and white mentality, you can literally like insert the commands that everything is of this thing, you know? How do you know if you have insomnia? How many days have you not been sleeping good? If it's been over 28 days, you probably have insomnia. There's a lot more into that, but that's just the basics. Anyway. Oh. Look at those veins. Look at those muscles, dude. Fuck. Wow. I'm always taken back. Dude, you're a dick. Holy shit. Rudy picking up negotiation tactics, right? Holy shit, dude. There's so much to unpack on that. There's so much to go ahead and see and know and understand. But overall, what I'm guessing though is like as this continues, is essentially trying to see, because Rudy's sort of like the negotiator, right? He's sort of going to take that role of like the caretaker, trying to make sure that everyone goes forward. And I wonder if that's going to build any inferiority complexes for both Rui and Eris. Why am I saying that? How would it feel to be, yeah, how would it feel to be taken care of the entire time, even as like, you know, so you grow or you evolve or however like days or weeks or months it takes for you to get back to wherever you need to go? Would you feel comfortable? Would you feel good? Harris baggage. Yeah. But that's the thing. It's like for both of these situations, like, you know, and seeing this role that Rudy specifically is putting on himself, what does that mean going forward? And how can that create some tension in this group? You know, like that's sort of where my mind is at. Like going forward, how can this create bigger tension? How can this create people that like the communication styles? How can it affect the communication styles between them? Like my mind is at a loss for a second, mate, because like I can already tell that this can cause a lot of issues. Like at first it can be great, they can grow closer together, all of this, but then say that they reach like end destination, end whatever together, or they're like, you know, decide like, hey, we're gonna do our main life over here. Then there's this big thing, like there could be the relief of like getting out of wherever they need to get out of. But now that they're like here and the here and now, all of a sudden the relationship dynamics, the power dynamics, everything has changed from where it once was. And that can cause a big separation anxiety, a big dependency anxiety, big everything where it's like, I am not good enough being my own self independently to be able to take care of myself going forward. So I need to change certain things. Or even for Rudy himself, like what can he do to improve and become better and help Rudy understand the difference between evil and not evil? There's so many good questions, so many good opportunities that this can go into. It was a good episode, though. It was a really, really good episode. Usually, I end with some sort of like a big like psychological theory on it, but I think just like the little preview of like domestic violence or just violence in general, the violent circle power or like power and control circles, pretty good to like try and understand and take that into consideration. Wow, wow, so much being thrown at us all at once. So many different opportunities there. How are you guys doing? You guys feeling okay? My mind is a little shocked by that. But with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Yeah, all good is there. All good is there. Perfect. I hope you guys enjoyed it because I personally enjoyed it. It was a good episode. Going forward, we only have one episode left, I think, for this course, and then it'll probably start up the second course, if I remember correctly. But yeah, that's the best way I can put it. I know tomorrow, if I do get on, it's probably going to be some Elden Ring again because we're trying to slowly and surely get through it. And then just go from there. But anyway, I appreciate you guys so much for stopping by. And I have to go ahead and start getting ready because the alarm is about to ring in about 2 or 3 minutes. So we actually did it, guys. We did it. Anyway, I appreciate you guys so much for being here. Feel free to follow. It costs nothing. And we're trying to reach 500 followers for all of the things here. But anyway, thank you guys so much. I'll talk to you guys later. Have fun. Yeah. Bye, guys.